just to continue from where we left in the previous session, we have just few more some interesting things which are left in the countable and uncountable nouns. So I'll just complete it and then we'll get into a new topic today. So in our last session, we were discussing about which pronouns or which adjectives or what exactly, how they modify countable nouns or uncountable nouns, which are eligible for that thing. So in this particular case, if you see here, few and quite a few. So basically, few and quite a few, both of these adjectives actually only modify countable nouns. So things which could be counted. If you see here, a few doctors from the hospital play on the softball team. So few is actually always used for the countable nouns only. So if you see, few restaurants in this town offer vegetarian dishes. Quite a few restaurants in this town offer vegetarian dishes. So if you see the small difference between both of these sentences, few means very small number, sometimes even negligible as well. Quite a few means large number. So that's the difference between these two. And likewise, little bit of, quite a bit of, little bit of and quite a bit of are actually used to modify uncountable nouns. So things which could not be counted or things which are usually said with not particular proper units. So if you say there's a little bit of pepper in the soup, what is that little bit? Is it 2 grams, 3 grams, 5 grams? There is no, usually pepper is not measured in that unless until if we put it in units, then it becomes measurable thing. But in general, pepper is uncountable noun. So that's why we use a little bit of, and there's quite a bit of pepper in the soup. So again, still it is uncountable. So the only difference between these two sentences, a little bit of means small amount, quite a bit means large amount. So also enough is actually used for both countable and uncountable nouns, and same goes with the plenty of as well. So if you see some of the examples, I don't have enough potatoes to make the soup, or we could say we have enough money to buy a car, or we don't have enough money to buy this apartment, something like that. So enough is actually used for both countable and uncountable nouns. So potatoes is countable and money is uncountable, unless until if you put it in units like currency, something like that. Then rupees becomes countable noun, not money. So this likewise, plenty of is also used to modify both countable and uncountable nouns. So there are plenty of mountains in Switzerland. She has plenty of money. Mountains is a countable noun and money is uncountable noun. So plenty of could be used for both countable and uncountable noun. So both enough and plenty of are actually eligible to use both of them. And no, likewise, no is also used for countable and uncountable nouns. So no is also a very common adjective which we use. So if you see here, the example says, there were no squirrels in the park today. Squirrels are countable, you could count them. You can distinguish one squirrel from another. You have no time left to finish the project. Again, no time. Time is uncountable noun. So we have no time left to finish the project. So enough, plenty of, and no could be used for, they can be used for all the uncountable and uncountable nouns. So this is all about the countable and uncountable nouns topic actually. So if anyone has any doubts, you can ask. Does anyone have any doubts on this particular topic? Okay, so in that case, we can move into the next topic. So this topic is actually very interesting topic because we often use it very commonly in verbally and in a written format as well. And many things while I was going through it, even I understood that we often use it very commonly, but actually sometimes it could be wrong also. And with the developments in English and with the broader culture which English has adapted in the recent times, sometimes the pronouns usage has also is often nowadays it is used in a different way. We'll see what are those developments and in which situations we use them. So before I get into the topic of this using pronouns clearly, I just would like to know from you. So when you see this first sentence, what do you think? What do you think? Is there anything wrong with this sentence, or is it fine? I just wanted to understand from you this first sentence.
they should have their homework ready.
Okay.
Or it can also be when you come to class, you should have your homework ready.
Okay. So you mean you is right? Is that what this is, right?
Yeah, depends on the context, I would say. Depends on to whom the statement is being directed. So if it is a specific statement directed at someone, then they say when you come to class, you should have your homework ready. Or if it's a generic statement like a rule, then we can go with what's in our text. So when a person comes to class, they should have their homework ready.
Okay.
Maybe the issue is that the you doesn't correspond to a person.
So A and the U don't go together.
Yeah. Yes, and the person and you, they don't go together. So the pronoun that's being used is incorrect.
Right. So what's wrong with this sentence is you is not the correct pronoun here. So if you see, there is first person singular, second person singular, and third person. If I am talking, I become the first person. If I'm talking to you, you become the second person. And if I'm talking about someone else, which means he or she becomes the third person. So if you see the sentence here, when a person comes to class, which means I'm talking to someone, I'm saying when a person, which means I'm not talking to that second person, I'm referring to the third person. So you is not the appropriate word here, because I is the first person, you is the second person singular, and he or she is the third person singular. So the appropriate usage for this sentence would be, when a person comes to class, he or she should have his or her homework ready. That is actually the proper usage here in this context, if we are talking about gender in a generic sense. So he or she should have his or her homework ready. So, but there is a little change to this sentence as well. So as I said, with the latest developments in English and with the kind of culture recently we adopted with legal changes as well, because many people, not all of them identify themselves as he or she. Sometimes there could be third gender also. Some people might not like to be called as he or she. So in such a case, if you are very sure that you're talking about a boy or girl, you could use he or she. But in case if you are not so very sure, it is better to use they. When a person comes to class, they should have their homework ready, just like how Sina mentioned. So that is in case if you are not sure about the gender, if you are unsure of it. If you are very sure, then he or she is actually the correct in the appropriate English. But with the recent changes in the legal framework, we use they or they just to make it more appropriate and to make everyone inclusive in this context. So that is actually the proper sentence. So
they has become the, or I'm not sure if it has become, but they is the gender neutral word.
Right. Yes, yeah, it is gender neutral. So likewise, there is a second sentence here, the paragraph here. You want a criminal attorney who spends 100% of their time defending the accused, someone who is up to date on all the current case law and statutes, and someone who is not afraid to fight for their clients in the courtroom. So this is a paragraph which a person is talking about. I would like you guys to identify, is there anything wrong with the pronouns usage here? If you can identify anything, we will see. So to start with, we are saying you want a criminal, which means I'm referring to that second person, you. You want a criminal attorney who spends 100% of their time defending the accused. So just like how I mentioned in the first sentence, you want a criminal attorney, which means it could be he or she, who spends 100% of his or her time defending the accused. Someone who is up to date on all the current case law and statutes, and someone who is not afraid to fight for his or her clients. So there is, in two places we see there coming. So the appropriate usage would be his or her if we are sure of the gender, and in case if you want to make it as a gender neutral sentence, then this is a correct sentence. Their time, their clients. It is acceptable, very much acceptable. So that is the case. So that's the case with these two examples. So with this, we can start the topic. We'll see what are other examples, other rules in this thing. So pronouns actually, as we know, they take the place of singular noun. So if we are using a singular noun, we have to use singular pronoun. If we are using a plural noun, we have to use a plural pronoun. So that's the rule which we have to follow in this case. So if you see here, the first sentence which says, the girls brought her umbrella. Obviously, they're talking about girls, they are saying her. But if you girls is actually a plural noun, her is not a plural pronoun. So we have to use plural pronoun here. So the correct sentence to put is, the girls brought their umbrella. So that is actually the, because you're talking to a group, we are referring to a group of people, it's a plural. So there becomes very appropriate here. So sometimes we might think that we can put hers also, so because hers, it is also talking like a plural, but actually her, his, her or his is actually a possessive pronoun, not a normal pronoun. So it is talking about a possession of someone. If you're talking about someone possessing something, then his or hers becomes very appropriate. But here in this case, we are talking about group. So plural pronoun there is appropriate here. So as I mentioned, there could also take place as, because we want to avoid the awkwardness in a situation where we're unsure of the gender. So just to make it gender neutral, we use they or their in situation accordingly. So the rule is, first rule is we should always agree in number. If we are talking about a plural noun, use plural pronoun. If you're talking about a singular noun, use singular pronoun. So we should always, the pronoun should always agree in number with the noun, with the quantity of the noun. So that is the first rule in the pronouns. And if we go to the second rule, the pronoun should always agree with the person. So just like how I mentioned, first person is I am talking, I am the person who is talking. So I becomes the first person. And if I'm talking to you, you becomes the second person. I'm talking to you. And if I'm talking about someone else, I'm referring to someone else, that is the third person. He, she, they, it becomes the correct word, because it can also be used for children. Sometimes in certain situations, it is actually, because for children, sometimes you might not use his or she, he or she. We say it also in certain situations. We'll see that those examples also. So if we are talking about a person, if we are already brought the context, so the pronoun should always agree with the person. So we'll see how exactly does that happen. So if you see the first sentence here, when a person comes to class, you should have your homework ready. So this is the example which I talked in the beginning. So the appropriate sentence would be, when a person comes to class, he or she should have his or her homework ready. So that is actually the appropriate sentence here, not you, because here I'm talking about when a person, I'm referring to third person, but I'm giving the pronoun as second person. So if I'm referring to third person, the pronoun should also be a third person, like he, she, they, it. It cannot be you. You becomes a second person. And a person is not definitely referring to a second person. So that's why pronoun first rule is it has to agree with the number, singular, plural, all these things. Second rule is it should agree with the person. So that is the second rule. And we should always be referred to a specific noun. So if you see here, some of the sentences which we very commonly use in the regular life, or which also leads to some confusion. If the person is just before us, we could at least clarify, give adequate clarity on what you're talking about. But if we are writing in a written format, this becomes a problem, especially if it is a formal thing. That's why we sometimes feel, why is legal language very complicated? It is very elaborate, something which could be explained in a single paragraph. Legal language takes more than 3-4 pages. The reason is they want anybody to get deviated. There is no double meaning in the legal language. There is only single meaning. With that, we can only get it what exactly they are referring to. So we cannot deviate. So the main objective of the legal language is to avoid as many deviations as possible. They want to be specific, clear. So if you see here, we are not very specific in the first sentence. If you see, although the motorcycle hit the tree, it was not damaged. So what exactly it is referring to? Is it referring to the motorcycle or tree? Although the motorcycle hit the tree, it was not damaged. Is the motorcycle got not damaged, or was the tree not damaged? Which one are we referring to? So it is leading to certain confusion, or it is leading to more doubts. So this has to be avoided with the use of proper pronoun. We'll see some more examples. See, I don't think they should show violence on the TV. Who are they? We are not very sure. Are we talking about media people? Still unsure. It could be anyone also. So we did not talk about the noun, but we directly use the pronoun. So it also leads to some confusion. We are not very specific about this thing. And if you see that example, vacation is coming soon, which is nice. Are we saying that vacation is nice, or the nature of it coming soon? Are we saying is that nice? So we are not sure which one is nice. So the third most important important rule is the pronoun should always be specific, and it should give clarity. It should not create confusion. So whenever we use it or he or she or you or anything, so it should always give more clarity on this thing. We'll see some more examples on this thing. And one more thing, certain other pronouns which we might confuse ourselves as taking them as a plural pronoun, but actually they are singular pronouns. So if you see everybody, anybody, anyone, each, neither, nobody, someone, a person. So these pronouns are actually singular pronouns. So you should always use them in a singular nature in the sentence. If you see, everybody ought to do his or her best. Everybody can perform in this program. Everybody respects their country. Or you see, what you are exactly meaning, you mean is he or him. You're basically saying this person or that person, he or she. That's what you exactly mean. So it actually takes the singular pronouns. You cannot say everybody ought their best to do their best. No, that is not the appropriate word. So everybody is actually the singular pronoun. Neither of the girls brought their umbrella or her umbrella. So in this case, there is not the appropriate one, because neither of it is actually singular pronoun. So that is the reason why we have to use her, because it is this is actually referring to the this is actually a singular pronoun. So when we use singular pronoun, we should always use it should always obey with the noun. So these are the some of the rules, and there are certain other tabular. I have listed them in a tabular format. We could see them clearly, like how to distinguish them. We'll see them adequately here.
Yeah, I have an idea here. I don't know. You can just give your opinion. So instead of that her, if we just put an and,
okay,
I think we can potentially avoid the situation, the incorrect pronoun situation. Neither of the girls brought an umbrella.
Okay.
Doesn't matter whose it is, right? So if the her is really trying to say whose umbrella is it. Yeah, but
okay,
anyway, just an example. Yeah, no. I'm just giving an alternate. That's all. I think your the point is very good. Yeah. But actually, this points to one other way of looking at things. Many times when we write, what happens is, you are like writing, and you are trying to concoct something, and it's not working, right? So in those cases, one of the ways to do it is just to cut that off completely and sort of either have an alternate approach. But anyway, so great. So yeah, please.
Yes, so these are actually singular pronouns. They should always be used in a singular nature. So whenever we use any pronoun. So likewise, pronouns could be used in different ways. It can refer to subject, or it can refer to the object, or it can talk about the possession as well. It could be used in different ways. So before going into that, I'll just like to say subject, object, and possession. These three are different things. If we categorize them broadly when we are talking about pronouns. So subject is the one who is in the action, who does the things, or object is the one who is on the receiving end. So if I say, I gave chocolate to, say for example, Jagdish. I gave chocolate to Jagdish. I become the subject here, and Jagdish in the receiving end becomes the object here. So. Sorry, Chaitanya.
What about the rest of us?
I think we can decide that on Independence Day, Chaitanya. So basically this is the thing, and verb always follows the subject. Verb always, whenever in certain cases, we use multiple nouns actually, because we refer to multiple people, and in certain situation we get confused, and there is actually a technique to just follow, to just identify which is the object, which is the subject, because verb always follows the subject. So I'll show some of the example, and likewise there is also one more other thing I would like to show here. So before we go there, I would like to show this tabular format. So pronouns used as a subject. So pronouns can be, so I becomes here the pronoun, and me becomes the object. So whose pen is this, or whose pen is this, something, if someone asks me, it is mine. So we are talking about the possession. So mine becomes the correct usage in this case. Or you could say he gave chocolate to me. So what this means is he is the subject. Me on the receiving end, I become the object. He gave to me. So me is object here. Or you could say I gave to him. I become the subject here, or him, that person becomes the object there. So likewise, so for I, if I is the subject, then me on the receiving end, it becomes the object, and mine, it is talking about possession. I own this thing. This thing belongs to me. So mine becomes that particular correct pronoun would be mine. That is the thing. And you could be also used as subject, because many situations you could also start the sentence, or you could also be used as a subject. And likewise, as I said, you could also act as an object as well. In case if you're talking about possession, in this particular case for the you could say yours. So I, me, mine, these are the first person singular. You, yours becomes the second person singular. So you both could take subject, you could take both subject and object place, and yours becomes the possession for this context. And if we are talking about the third person singular, he, she, it. So he gave this, he is the one who runs this company, or he brought the freedom to this country, something, he, she, it. So it becomes the subject. And it can also, in case if it is taking an object place, he becomes him, she becomes her, it becomes same, it only. In case if you're talking about possession, this his pen is something, you could say his house is occupied by someone, or her house is occupied by someone, or her pen or her refill just got over, or something like that. You're talking about the possession here. So for he, his takes place as a possessive pronoun. For she, her takes place the possessive pronoun, and it becomes its. So not it dot is, that is a different thing. It is just it becomes the possession you're talking about. We'll see them with examples. It will give more adequate clarity there. And likewise, he, she, it, and we. In case of we are the people, or you could say we are the one who won this cricket match, or we are the one. So you're talking here, you're using we in the subject place. So we can take the subject place. In case if you are referring that group in the object form, you could say us. The award was given to us. So us is taking the object place here. So same group, while you're referring in the subject form, it becomes we. And if it is referring in an object form, it becomes us. And you could say, if you're talking about the possession, you could say ours. That cup belong ours. You could say it is ours. That chocolate is ours, or maybe that prize is ours, something. So the possessive pronoun, this becomes appropriate. For in case of they is used as a subject. They are called as Indians, or they are called as Americans, or they are called as Cholas, Pandavas, something like that. So they is taking the subject list here. If the same group has to be referred in the object form, you say them. So the award for, you could say you can put them in the object form in case if you say the award was given to them, or the appreciation was taken by them, or you could say that in that way. So in this case, that group is put in an object form, so them becomes appropriate here. And if you're talking about possession, theirs, you could say theirs become it belong theirs. You could say theirs possession. If they are possessing something, theirs becomes appropriate here. So sometimes we get confused, like is ours or theirs, is it appropriate or not? It is very much appropriate. So in case if you are talking about the possession, so it is actually possessive pronoun. So likewise, who, whom, whose. So who is becomes the subject, and the same who, if it is referring to the object, it becomes whom. If it is talking about a possession, whose pen is this, or whose book is this, something like that. So you're talking about possession. Someone is, something belongs to someone. So you're bringing the possessive context there. So that's why. And there are certain other things like pronouns like this, that, or these, or those. So basically these, those used for plural things like which are countable, and this, that usually you talk about location or something. So this, that, these, those, and which, they do not change any form. So like how we changed I, me, mine, just like how if it is used in subject it is different, if it is used in object it is different, but in the case of this, that, or these, those, or which, they do not change their form. They would be neutral in all of these cases, in subject, object, and in possession. So we'll see them with examples. So sometimes, as I said, there could be compound structures, like there could be two pronouns, or there could be two nouns, or there could be one pronoun or one noun. So in such situation, it becomes a little complicated. We'll see them here. The first example says, Bob and me travel a good deal. So what do you think? Is this sentence, is it right, or there is something wrong with this sentence?
Should be Bob and I.
Right. So it is actually Bob and I. In case if we encounter such things, and if we want to make it very clear, if you are a little confused, there is a simple technique. What we have to do is, because there are two, there is a noun and there is a pronoun here. Bob is a noun, me is a pronoun. Sometimes there could be two nouns, like Bob and Ram, or something like that, or there could be two pronouns. In such a situation, just eliminate the other noun and just see the sentence. Just put the sentence and listen to yourself. If you feel if it is right, then it gives more clarity. If you see, just eliminate Bob and here, and just see the sentence. If I just close Bob and, if I read from me travel a good deal, definitely it is a very wrong way of putting things. You could say I travel a good deal. So Bob and I. So here you have to say I becomes the more appropriate. So you cannot say me travel. So you should say I. So Bob and I together, you are referring them as travel, because both of them are, even though they are two different pronouns or two different things, you should say I. In such a case, you can just hide the other one and just read it, and it gives more clarity. And if you see the second sentence, he gave the flowers to Jane and I. So in the first case, Bob and I, here it is saying about the subject. So Bob and I, both of are subjects. It is not like, because me is used in object form. But here in the first sentence, I'm not talking about object. I'm both Bob and I, both of are subjects here. Bob and I travel a good deal. So travel is actually following Bob and me. Sorry, Bob and I. So as I said, verb always follows the subject. So travel is talking about Bob and I. So I becomes subject, and that's why we have to use I only, not me. If you see in the second sentence, he gave the flowers to Jane and I. He is the subject here. Jane and I becomes the object. So as we know, I could not be used in a subject in the object form. Me becomes appropriate here. Or you could simply hide the Jane. You could say he gave flowers to I. It is definitely not in the right form. You could say he gave flowers to me, because I am at the receiving end. I become the object. So for I, if it has to be put in the object form, you should say me. So you cannot say he gave flowers to I. You should say he gave flowers to me, because me is object, I is subject. Because Jane and I are in the subject form, you should say me, not I. So in the third sentence, if you see, as men like the coach. So you cannot say as like the yeah. So we men like the coach, just like Austin mentioned, we becomes appropriate here. So if you are confused, just remove the men and just read the sentence. We like the coach becomes appropriate, not us like the coach. We cannot say us like the coach. We like the coach. So in case there are compound structures like multiple pronouns or multiple nouns or mix of pronouns and nouns, you can just remove the other one and just read out the sentence. You will be able to identify the correct pronoun in that situation. That is one technique here. So just like that, if you just remember the table, object, subject, this would be even more easy. You can just subconsciously go with the flow No need to be very eliminating this and checking this thing. And likewise, we'll see some comparisons here. So he's taller than I. So sometimes if you see, this helps you as much as it helps me. So many times when we are comparing things, we like to make things very short. We just shorten it. We eliminate certain things because even the omission is very much, even with the omission, the sentence meaning stands same. So if you see the sentence here, this helps you as much as it helps me. There is no need to mention it helps. You can just remove that one else, that one, and you can rest it out. This helps you as much as me. Or you could say she is as noisy as I am, or you could say she is as noisy as I. So the things which are in the bracket, those things can be removed in case if we are talking about comparisons. So usually we can omit these things and the sentence meaning overall theme would still stand the same. So the things which are in parentheses, you can remove them and it still stands the same. It still communicates the same. And that is the case with this topic. There are still so many interesting things in this thing, many advanced level things. So these are the basics which I wanted to cover for this session. Yeah, that is it I have. Does anyone have any questions on this particular topic?
I just have something that I wanted to add basically. So see, this is a very common issue that many of us use. So whenever you're talking about 2 or 3 people, right? So basically, let's say if you have 3 people. So I am there, and let's say Rama and Krishna, there are 3 people, right? So many of us have the habit of saying me and Rama and then Krishna. Okay? But typically, I think there is a difference because I think in our mother tongue, so that's the common usage, right? Our usage is, Mai or Rama or Krishna, 3 people, right? So in English, it's the other way around, okay? It's the only one thing that is very good, at least I like to hear, which is there you first tell the other people, and then at the end you mention I. So Rama, Krishna, and I.
Right.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention. And whenever you write or whenever you're speaking in the client calls or anywhere for that matter, this is correct usage.
Right. Yes. We should always put other person first, and we should say Rama, Krishna, and I. We went to say Bhadrachalam, something like that. So Rama, Krishna, and I, we 3 of them become subject, and you should put I. You should put ourselves in the end. Rama, Krishna, I comes towards the end. If the same Rama, Krishna, and I has to be put in the object form, you could say Prasadam was given to Rama, Krishna, and me. You should say so me takes the object form here or something like that, because we are at the receiving end. So just like that, you can put the names for in case instead of putting your name, if you are using pronoun, if it is on the subject side, you should say I, and if you are in the object form, you should say me, just like that. So sometimes we get confused at I, me. So just wanted to inform that thing.
So one more thing, Surya, can you go back one more slide? I just wanted to. Yeah. So the second sentence is there. No, he gave the flowers to Jane and I. So some people would say he gave the flowers to Jane and myself. I don't know, but that is actually wrong. So initially I used to say it like that initially. So I wasn't very clear between me and myself. Okay, where to use me and where to use myself. So myself should be used only when we are the subject of the sentence. Say for example, I could not dress myself. So I is a subject, and there you can use myself. Okay. So let's say President Trump sent letters to Jane and myself is wrong. Okay. So like Trump sent letters to Jane and me is correct. So yeah, that I just wanted to tell you.
Okay. I think we have topics on that one also. I think good that you have mentioned, Sina. I'll cover about that thing also in the coming sessions.
Okay.
So we'll see them. Yeah.